Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. After she loses everything, does Thomas pick herself up and return for Hope? According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope Logan will soon lose everything, which is ideal for Thomas Forrester's comeback. That could be Hope's saving grace. Hope's B&B existence is going to fall apart. She is having a deteriorating relationship with Carter Walton. For her, his desire to return Forrester Creations is a deal-breaker. This implies that her hope for the future line might come to an end once more shortly. Additionally, she is in danger of losing her relationship with her mother, Brooke Logan, Catherine Kelly Lang. Additionally, she could lose her job at Forrester Creations once more. On Bold and Beautiful, all of these things are up in the air. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope Logan's life dissects. Thomas Forrester is sorely missed by fans of The Bold and the Beautiful. And when Hope's life collapses, he might be the hero she needs. After the coup is over, Steffy Forrester, Jacqueline McInnes Wood, might soon be able to fire Hope. Furthermore, Thomas has a lengthy history of being a pillar in Hope's life. Additionally, his reappearance might be the lifeline she sorely needs if her world falls apart as we anticipate. Things change when Brooke and Daphne appeal to Carter's better angels. Taylor Hayes, who also appears on Bold and the Beautiful, thinks Carter is a decent person. Thus, Hope is portrayed as the antagonist in the plot. Additionally, they are allowing Carter to fall prey to her influence. Hope's demise was premeditated by the creators of Bold and Beautiful, because she refuses to cede control of Forrester Creations in any way. She also enjoys using B&B to control Steffy. Beautiful and brave, Thomas Forrester Hope Logan. Is it too late for Thomas Forrester to return to B&B? Will Matthew Atkinson return? A significant change in the B&B plot may result from Thomas Forrester's return to The Bold and the Beautiful. They are well liked regardless of whether people adore Thope or despise the duo. Thomas's return would be appropriate because Hope is probably unemployed and going through a difficult period soon. She will have to start over. Additionally, Thomas Forrester might be the key to restoring HFTF and her FC job. Thomas's return to Bold and the Beautiful is eagerly anticipated. Additionally, Matt Atkinson may have requested this leave. A few months after they were married, his final episode revealed that his wife, Brittany, was expecting a child. According to previews for Bold and Beautiful, now is the ideal moment for Thomas to return to Hope. Check out this brand new B&B video to see all the juicy facts. Will Thomas Forrester come back to pick up Hope Logan's broken life? Carter's crude refusal. The Bold and the Beautiful's Friday episode featured heartbreaking rejection, intense confrontations, and unexpected turns. In typical soap opera tradition, the Valentine's Day scenario developed with romance turning to treachery and desires resulting in destruction. Fans were on the edge of their seats as Carter Walton, a man renowned for his dedication and steadfast moral compass, found himself in an unexpected and painful predicament. The intensity of feelings, secrets, and ulterior intentions escalated throughout the show, leading to a shocking rejection that nobody anticipated. Carter, who had finally made the decision to follow his heart, was at the center of the pandemonium, but what he experienced was very different from the love and dedication he had imagined. For weeks, his relationship had been tense due to persistent suspicions and warnings from people close to him. Carter, a guy who had always had faith in love, however, chose to ignore the approaching storm. His heart raced with anticipation as he arrived to a little Valentine's Day dinner, thinking that this evening would be a watershed in his romance. Rather, it turned into a moment of reflection. The rejection was faster and more profound than Carter could have predicted. He was left reeling by a gut-wrenching, icy, and well-thought-out rebuke that went beyond a simple no. His faith and belief in love had been shattered in a way that appeared to be irreparable. As he took in the harsh reality in front of him, the anguish in his eyes was evident. In a cruel and startling turn of events, the lady he had sacrificed for, fought for, and believed in had turned against him. It was treachery in its most basic form, not just rejection. Carter's anguish, meanwhile, had repercussions that went beyond his own suffering. Tensions arose among those closest to him when news got out about what had happened. Longtime friend and confidant Ridge Forrester was torn between prudence and loyalty. Although he had always backed Carter, this most recent event caused him to re-evaluate everything. Ever the provocateur, Brooke Logan used the occasion to remind everyone that love was as ephemeral as it was enticing in their society. Her remarks were powerful, sowing mistrust and escalating already existing tensions. Despite her own romantic involvements, Steffi Forrester was unable to overlook Carter's predicament. Even though she had always respected his fortitude and tenacity, she could tell that he had been dealt a blow that might be too severe to overcome this time. She debated whether to step in, provide assistance, or just let Carter work through his suffering alone. Getting caught up in yet another emotional tangle threatened to drag her farther into the turmoil that already characterized her encounters with Finn. Daphne unintentionally became involved in Carter's sorrow in another place. She had seen the events leading up to the heartbreaking rejection and debated whether or not to tell anyone. She had suffered from the burden of secrets, and Friday's episode revealed her internal conflict. Would her involvement just worsen the situation, or should she shield Carter by revealing the truth? She had to make a decision that may alter the trajectory of several relationships in ways that no one could foresee. Carter's sadness took a dramatic and nearly violent turn as the episode came to a close. Raw pain erupted from the feelings that had been boiling beneath the surface. It was up to the spectator to decide if the blood was literal or symbolic. A moment of unbridled rage, a broken glass, a clenched fist, Carter had had enough. The most disturbing twist of all was that the ordinarily calm and logical man was no longer in charge. The effects of this night would linger for a very long time and go well beyond Carter's personal hardship. Viewers were left with more questions than answers during the episode's closing minutes. Would Carter be able to move over this heartbreaking rejection, or had he gone too far? What reactions would Ridge, Brooke, Steffi, and Daphne have to the consequences? And above all, what startling discoveries were yet to be made in this complex web of love, treachery, and heartache? Showing the intricacies of love and the destruction of treachery, Friday's episode of The Bold and the Beautiful was a masterwork of drama. Carter's brutal rejection was more than just a heartbreaking event, it was a watershed that would influence everyone's destiny. One thing is clear as fans prepare for the upcoming chapter: The Bold and the Beautiful universe will never be the same. Brooke's disclosure: does Hope seek to be a cruel evil? Brooke Logan's opinion of her once adored daughter, Hope Logan, drastically changed in a startling turn of events on The Bold and the Beautiful. The woman she had always viewed as the naive, kind-hearted lighthouse in her life was now showing herself to be something far more cunning and evil. Every preconceived notion Brooke had about Hope's personality was shattered when she came to this knowledge, which came as a tidal wave. Was this the development of a woman who had been driven to her breaking point, or was her daughter really as vicious as she now seemed? Brooke had fought for Hope's happiness for years, supporting her through betrayal, heartbreak, and countless romantic relationships. Hope was conceived with Brooke's vision of her daughter living a life of dignity and elegance, free from the power battles and manipulations that frequently consumed the Forresters, Spencers, and Logans. However, Brooke was horrified to see how her daughter had changed into someone she hardly recognized as she observed Hope navigating her most recent scams. The epiphany occurred during a furious conversation between Brooke and Hope, when the younger Logan, with a piercing, unflinching confidence that chilled Brooke to the bone, disclosed her actual goals. Hope had changed from being a helpless young woman who clung to the principles of justice and love to a woman who was prepared to do whatever it took to maintain her own authority. Her daughter had always learned from Brooke to stand up for what she believed in, but she never thought Hope would take that lesson and turn it into a plan that resembled the brutal methods used by the exact individuals Brooke had spent years fighting against. Brooke had initially persuaded herself that her daughter was just advocating for herself, but Hope had recently made daring decisions in both her personal and professional lives. Brooke, however, was forced to face the reality as the pieces began to fit together. Hope was playing the game, and she was playing to win. Hope was no longer the helpless victim, whether she was using her power as a sword in her professional life or in her personal life. where she took advantage of circumstances. The cords were being pulled by her. Hope's greatest adversary had always been Steffi Forrester, and Brooke had supported her daughter for years because she thought Steffi was the one who was attacking them in their long-running conflict. However, Brooke began to doubt everything after noticing the icy calculation in Hope's eyes. Had Steffi been correct all along? Had Hope been silently waiting for the right opportunity, waiting to seize all Steffi valued? Brooke felt a chill at the thought, realizing that she might have underestimated her own daughter's slyness. Brooke's concerns were further stoked by Hope's encounters with Thomas Forrester. Brooke has been warning her daughter about Thomas's fixation and advising her not to fall into his deceptive web for years. The roles were reversed today, though. Hope had the upper hand, and Thomas appeared powerless in her presence. Was Thomas merely a pawn in Hope's larger scheme? Did she intentionally manipulate him, fully aware of how deeply he felt for her? Brooke dreaded the answer was yes, the more she watched. Brooke was overcome with fear as the realization weighed heavily on her. She had fought strong, cunning women all her life, including Taylor Hayes, Quinn Fuller, and Stephanie Forrester, but she never would have thought that her own daughter would exhibit the same traits. Did Hope inherit Brooke's charm and beauty alone? Had she also been born with the trickery, manipulation, and crushing of those who opposed her? Brooke rushed to Hope's longtime confidant and ex-husband, Liam Spencer, in a desperate attempt to find answers. He was the only one who could shed light on the woman Hope had become. However, Liam also appeared to be torn. He acknowledged that Hope had changed and that he had observed a new side to her character. He wasn't certain, though, if it was increased strength or ruthlessness. But Brooke was certain it was the former. The Hope she knew would never have tried to control Steffi, would never have messed with Thomas's feelings, and would never have used others as pawns to achieve her goals. Brooke became increasingly aware that she needed to take action as she struggled with her realization. She couldn't watch helplessly while her daughter became into the very thing she had spent so much time fighting against. However, how could she prevent Hope from continuing on this sinister course? Brooke was aware that Hope would only get more defensive if she confronted her head-on. She needed a strategy instead, a technique to help her daughter return to the light before it was too late. Brooke stood by himself as the episode came to a close, lost in concentration as he gazed out at the skyline of Los Angeles. Would she be able to protect Hope from herself? Or was it too late already? There was no doubt that this fight was only getting started, and Brooke would stop at nothing to prevent her daughter from turning into the vicious demon she now thought she was destined to be. Brooke stood by himself as the episode came to a close, lost in concentration as he gazed out at the skyline of Los Angeles. Would she be able to protect Hope from herself? Or was it too late already? There was no doubt that this fight was only getting started, and Brooke would stop at nothing to prevent her daughter from turning into the vicious demon she now thought she was destined to be. Carter, meantime, was actually causing a bloody mess across town. Carter found himself in the midst of a situation that no one had anticipated when the tension that had been building for weeks suddenly reached a breaking point. His emotions were out of control as he approached the people who had betrayed him, driven by a mixture of sadness, wrath, and fury. What had begun as a furious dispute swiftly descended into anarchy as Carter, in a fit of wrath, swung out in a manner that left everyone in his wake. The room fell silent in shock as he swung his fist into a piece of glass, breaking it into sharp fragments. In sharp contrast to the immaculate perfection of the Forrester estate, blood flowed from his hand. Carter stood seething, his breathing ragged, and Steffi, Ridge, and the others halted, their horror palpable. For far too long, his pain had been simmering beneath the surface, and on this fateful Valentine's Day, it finally burst into the most spectacular way imaginable. Zend hurried over to offer assistance, but Carter dismissed him. The mental scars were more severe than the physical ones, and Carter didn't want to be around anyone who had contributed to his demise at that time. As the incident played out, Hope looked at Thomas anxiously, not sure if she should step in or not. The intense show of emotions in front of her appeared to momentarily shock even Brooke, who had just finished her own confrontation. The promise of romance and love had greeted the evening, but it had since evolved into something much darker. The Forrester world would be affected by Carter's outburst, leaving concerns that needed to be answered. Would Carter be able to get out of this downward spiral? Had he ruined his connections, his career, and maybe even his own sense of value? There was no doubt that February 14th would go down in Los Angeles history as a memorable night. Steffi gives Liam a charming touch and Finn makes a choice. In Los Angeles, where feelings were running hot, Steffi was torn between her past and present. After giving it some thought, she made the decision to show her affection for Liam, the man who had once been the center of her universe. Given the turmoil in their lives, Steffi felt obliged to offer an olive branch as a token of appreciation for their shared past and the respect they had upheld through the years. It was about recognizing the connection that had remained even as they went in different directions, not about rekindling old flames. Initially surprised by Steffi's generosity, Liam began to think back on the times they had supported one another during uncertain times. He had always respected Steffi's fortitude, and this unanticipated gesture served as a reminder of how deeply they were connected. Steffi's gesture conveyed a lot, whether it was a small gift, a kind word, or simply the warmth of a shared moment. It was her way of expressing her appreciation for their co-parenting relationship and the years they had spent together, despite the complex nature of their background. Finn, meantime, was at a turning point. He was torn between the reality that had been bothering him and his allegiance to Steffi, and he realized that a decision had to be made. He had been unsure of his position, wondering if he was shielding the lady he loved or just postponing the inevitable consequences by remaining silent. He was unable to ignore the persistent voice in the back of his mind as the mysteries pertaining to Luna, Poppy, and the intricate bonds that held their families together loomed large over him. Finn came to see that love was about more than just passion and devotion. It was also about honesty and trust as he saw Steffi show Liam kindness. He had persuaded himself that protecting Steffi meant keeping her from the real truth, and he had avoided the tough talks for far too long. But now that he was on the verge of a significant epiphany, he realized that honesty was the only path ahead. Finn took a long breath and decided. At last, he would openly discuss everything. No matter the repercussions, he would be honest with Steffi. It was unclear if it would strengthen their bond or drive them away, but Finn was certain that a secret-based love could never endure. And once Steffi gestured to Liam, she turned to him with a loving grin, and Finn knew that this moment would determine how their relationship would develop going forward. Would Finn's choice result in an irrevocable change, or would Steffi's deed of generosity pave the way for a new chapter? Life for these three would never be the same again, that much was clear. Steffi is horrified by Finn's confession. Steffi sensed an uncomfortable tension rising in the room as the sunset sun illuminated the cliffside property in a golden tone. Finn was standing in front of her, his hands balled into fists by his sides, his face pallid. He realized that he could no longer keep his secret hidden as it weighed heavily on him. Before he said the words that would alter everything, he inhaled deeply and looked into Steffi's eyes for a sign of understanding. He said, "Steffi, there's something I need to tell you," in an emotionally charged tone. As Steffi watched Finn struggle to find the appropriate words, her heart raced. Although she had always taken great satisfaction in her ability to read people, she was unable to foresee what would happen this time. She suddenly realized why Finn had been aloof and distracted. There was something significant that he had been concealing from her that would have rocked him to his foundation. "It's about Luna," Finn finally murmured, his voice almost audible above a whisper. Steffi tensed. She wasn't sure she could take any more surprises. Luna had already upended their lives enough. "What about her?" she inquired in a cautious, measured tone. Finn's throat tightened as he swallowed. "She's my daughter." Quiet. The words, laden with the threat of devastation, hung in the air like an unforgiving storm cloud. As Steffi took in what Finn had just confessed, her breath seized in her throat. She tried to make sense of everything as her thoughts raced. How? When? Why hadn't he told her about this? "No," she said in a whisper, shaking her head in shock. "That's not possible." "You told me." Finn interrupted. "I was wrong," his eyes sparkling. "Poppy lied to me, Steffi. She told me Luna wasn't mine, and I believed her. I didn't question it. But the truth is, I am Luna's father. Steffi stepped back, as though separating them would help her get away from the flood of feelings that was rushing through her. Anger, hurt, and betrayal all clawed at her, making it hard for her to breathe. The woman's voice was shaking as she said, "You knew and you didn't tell me?" "I only found out recently," Finn said. "And I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you." Steffi laughed, but it was a hollow chuckle, devoid of humor. "Hurt me? Finn, do you have any idea what you've done? You've broken my trust." She retreated another step as Finn reached for her. "I love you, Steffi. That hasn't changed. I need you to believe that." Steffi wasn't certain she could, though. A truth she never saw coming had just shattered the cornerstone of their marriage. Finn had a daughter named Luna. Everything altered because of that fact. She realized that their relationship would never be the same as she gazed into Finn's frantic eyes.